Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. We are excited to have you here, and I am excited to introduce our guests. We have with us here today two illustrious guests from illustrious companies. First, Gibu Thomas, who is the EVP of Online for Estee Lauder.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And then we have Paul Puschmann, who is the technical lead for the Cloud Center of Excellence at Reve Digital.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Amy Eschliman. I'm part of our Retail Industry Solutions team here at Google Cloud. So thank you for coming. To start, I'd love to have you both kind of introduce yourself and your role. We'll start with you, Gibu.
Great, yeah. So Gibu Thomas, I've been at ELC now for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I have spent a bunch of time in Silicon Valley as an entrepreneur and then leading transformations at Walmart, PepsiCo, and now Estee Lauder companies. So, and ELC Online, it's roughly about a third of our overall business is e-commerce, and a significant part of that is direct-to-consumer.
Great.
And I'm Paul Puschmann, so I'm a technical lead of the Cloud Center of Excellence at Reve Digital, which is located in Western Germany, next to Cologne or in Cologne. I've been at Reve Digital since 2014, so working there first as a DevOps engineer, solution architect, and now as a technical lead, always one of the first introducing Google Cloud to our company. And I'm currently now more on the infrastructure level, on the organizational and networking side. Thank you very much.
Great. So to start, I wanted to talk about just where we are right now in retail and AI. And AI truly has the capability of transforming the industry. And if you think about how people shop, the steps really haven't changed, right? I discover a product, I add it to my cart, I check out, I might get customer service along the way, but technology and AI have dramatically changed how those interactions happen. And now generative AI has the ability to accelerate that change even further. If we think about kind of how generative AI and AI in general can help the business, at Google we look at these kind of three key areas. First, it's built on a foundation of data and responsibility, and that really is the starting point for everything. Then, when you think about the key areas that it can help, there's unlocking growth opportunities. So thinking about digital experiences, primarily digital experiences that can unlock growth opportunities. Then there is, can't quite see, driving operational improvement. So you've got great growth drivers, and then you're thinking about how you can drive operational improvements and efficiency. And then finally, it's around transforming the store experience. And across both AI and generative AI, these are really kind of the three key areas that we see driving real value to retail P&Ls. And again, built on a data foundation and a foundation of responsibility. That data foundation is absolutely critical. And that data goes beyond just specific silos. It goes into even the intersections of that data and looking for opportunities to unlock new insights by looking at data differently. And cloud really allows you to do that. That's how we structured today's conversation as well. We're going to talk about some of the kind of front-end experiences and then talk about the data foundations. We may have time at the end for questions, so we'll see how it goes. And if so, would love you guys to come up and ask questions. So I want to start, Gibu, with you. First of all, thank you very much for participating in Next. It was great to see you called out in the keynote yesterday, and I know you were up at Leader Circle speaking as well, so thank you. Excited to have you here as well.
Great to be here.
Just the first question I wanted to ask is any advice that you, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Still going the wrong way. There we go. Any advice that you, guys.
We need some AI for this.
I mean, I swear to you, I'm pressing it in different directions, and yet, no matter what I'm doing, it's going the wrong way. It's like it's reverse engineered. It's all me. Okay, forget it. We're gonna go with this. We're gonna go with this slide. It's a great slide. Any advice to our audience first on how you would distinguish between kind of hype and real value in kind of AI right now, and generative AI as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say, the first thing is this is an enabler, right? And so you have to anchor on your business strategy, consumer value, all the fundamentals you would take care of in any capability or enablement that you would do. The second thing I would say is, being right is often more important than being first. And now that's, maybe not how Silicon Valley operates, right? But when you're a company with not a startup, with 75 years of legacy, significant brand equity, consumer trust that translates to irrational brand loyalty, et cetera, you want to be really thoughtful about how you deploy use cases and really anchor it on value. So that's one of the things that we have done is, so when I joined the company 2.5 years ago, we made a bet that AI was going to be a significant enabler for us. And we knew that it has the potential to redefine the way we do business. Now, having bold vision and bold ambition didn't make us then say, let's just go, spray and pray that 100 use cases, some which could have significant risk. We said, let's first build a very strong foundation, which you talked about, whether that's data, whether that's our operating environment. And the good news was, frankly, before all this hype began with the whole ChatGPT thing, it gave our teams the luxury to build things the right way. And now the advantage of all the hype is that the ability, the power of these, AI, generative AI, all these things have gone from sort of something that the nerds in the corner cared about to something that's in the mainstream consciousness of the whole executive suite. And so that's good because it gives you a lot of momentum. But our use cases are very anchored on where it delivers value. And, we have more ambitious use cases, which we're more careful about balancing speed and risk. So, I would really anchor it on business value versus what people try to convince you, whether that's, vendors or agencies or whatever that may have other incentives, but don't, worry as much about your brand or your consumer loyalty as much as you do.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. And it's not just about the value. I always think about it, a lot of years in retail, and I always compare it like the shiny object versus something that creates a lot of value and value for not only you, but mostly for your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I always talk about the fact that saying yes to everything doesn't require judgment, right? It's saying no or not yet that requires judgment. And that judgment really has to be both business and technical judgment. So, we also invested in talent and expertise internally, and Google has been an incredible partner for us, giving us early access to APIs. And, so when people come and pitch things to us, we often know more than the person that's pitching ideas to us. So about the models, about the use cases, et cetera. That allows us to then make high judgment decisions. And the other piece is really having AI and AI use cases and teams being super integrated with the business. If that doesn't happen, then you can become a science project, and so that's not. That could also be another risk.
That's great. As you're thinking about these different use cases, you have options. You have options to build yourself. You have the options to use outside partners. How do you evaluate that buy versus build decision?
Yeah, how we think about it is really, if there's intellectual property or a competitive advantage for us to do this, we prefer to build, right? Now, there's some cases where it's relatively commodity. It's not core to how we do business with our consumers or equity of our brands, et cetera. We're happy to partner. We're happy to buy. So it's not dogmatic. It's more very, very pragmatic. And we have the luxury of being able to invest in these capabilities and bringing the right talent, et cetera. Not every company may be in that same position, in which case I think each company has to make that decision for themselves. But for us, really, it boils down to IP, where there's value, our ability to iterate. The other risk is when you, again, this is where sometimes, this idea of speed, which is a very romanticized concept, and we all love speed, but speed in the wrong direction, right, can get you off of a cliff. And so sometimes people in the name of speed will, get a hodgepodge of 15 vendors, and you create these disjointed experiences that are really jarring to the consumer and operationally really hard to manage. So even if you're buying, you really have to kind of think about, working backwards from what you want this to be in the next couple of years and say, okay, where does this fit? How do I make this operationally easy to manage? How do I make sure that the experience is not jarring to the consumer, et cetera? So there's obviously trade-offs there.
Great. I want to shift gears a little and talk about privacy and compliance. What are some of the safeguards that you're putting in place as you pursue new AI opportunities?
Yeah, so one of the first things we did was we really came up with a set of principles that were around responsible AI, which we partnered with Google actually on, which was fantastic. And for us, again, there are many aspects to it. Obviously, in consumer trust and brand loyalty is something that's really important to us. Brand equity is really important to us. So then there's sort of other considerations, right? Inclusivity or promoting harmful beauty standards, or things where we may mislead people with digital misrepresentation using synthetic models, all of those kinds of things in terms of achievable beauty, all of things that are very core to the way we've done business for 75 years, we needed to preserve that. So we've set these principles, which has been a very key pillar to how we go about evaluating use cases, prioritizing use cases, et cetera. And the good news is we put these principles in place before all this hype began. And so people, when it wasn't as important or urgent for people, it was easy to say, here's how we should do it, and people are like, yeah, sure, no problem. Okay. And so now the good news is when it is important and urgent to all parts of the organization, we can say, but remember, we agreed to this, and that's really great. And the second thing is, when in doubt, we really, or not even when in doubt, we basically involve our legal, and privacy folks in the things that we do to just make sure that we're not, again, the consumer trust piece is and being responsible is really, or the regulatory piece, and all of those kinds of things are really important. So that's kind of how we manage it. Our teams, we have teams embedded with us to help us navigate that journey.
That's great. And let's kind of, as we think about that, you mentioned as you've moved from kind of more traditional AI to generative AI. Now that we're in this era of generative AI, it can be a bit intimidating. You guys have made some great progress and done some really interesting things. Any advice for others in kind of the retail and CPG industry of how do you get started? How do you make your first move?
I mean, you have to start with, again, I would start with the consumer, I would start with the use case. I mean, that's how we started. So for example, one of the first use cases that we deployed actually in June with generative AI, we leveraged LLMs in June 2022, before the whole ChatGPT took the world by storm, on a use case which was really around classifying consumer care calls into the right issue codes, which we can then feed back to both resolution of those issues, but also, whether it's site merchandising or product development, digital or physical, in terms of consumer feedback. And we found that the model was twice as accurate as humans in classifying these codes. And so for us, that is a really valuable use case that instantaneously paid off. And the beauty of that was because we had focused on all that environment building and setting the foundation right, it was just a matter of a day for an ML engineer to come up with the first prototype, and then which we were able to put into production very quickly. And so, again, we started with what was really the DNA of the company. So what separates, I'll give you a little bit of, I wasn't a beauty industry expert before I joined ELC, and I don't anticipate that many people here are beauty industry experts as well. One of the things that separates prestige beauty companies from mass beauty companies is this notion of high touch. For ELC, definitely, Mrs. Estee Lauder, it was like, the idea is the products that I'm recommending to you is specific to you to be maximum efficacy versus what I would recommend to someone else. And so in the offline world, we talk to we have beauty advisors and MAC artists, who help you come up with those things, and the consumer has a conversation with the people behind the counter. And service and care are a big piece of that. And so when we think about online or digital engagement with these consumers, how we replicate that high-touch experience online is something that is really something we think a lot about. And so this use case fit with high touch because it was helping with care. And we think of our generative AI use cases as sort of, how do we marry high touch with high tech to really deliver that sort of next competitive advantage for this new world in which consumers are shopping?
Okay, great, thank you. I'm gonna ask a set of questions to both of you now. And Paul, I'm gonna start with you. Gibu, you kind of started on the prioritization, and so Paul, that's the question for you. As you're thinking about use cases, and there feels sometimes like there's no limit to the number of use cases you can do. As you're thinking about use cases, tell us about how you prioritize efforts.
So as you already said, Gibu, so prioritizing from the customer view or for the customer benefit is always a good first step to make. And what we also introduce or apply to our work is accept failure. So not only trying to bring forward one thing that we thought of, one idea, but also to accept, well, this is maybe something that the customer does not accept or that the customer does not pick up. So maybe the time is too early for some feature, for some AI function, whatever, could also be an option. These are two things that are empowering us.
Yeah, great. And you talked about this in your conversation. Actually, before I move on, anything else on prioritization that you'd want to add? You kind of addressed it, but I want to make sure that I open it up.
No, I think it's really, kind of, I would say, usefulness is the, business impact is the, first of all, the baseline. And then it's a balance of, risk versus value, and that's how I would think about it. I mean, many of the early use cases we've done, for example, we use generative AI for copy generation, for SEO or product copy, or sentiment analysis of product reviews and so on, which are all immediate value for our organization, and so not highly risky, but there are some use cases that we're excited about that are maybe, where agents can, AI has agency to make decisions on behalf of the consumer. There we think a lot about our timing, and because it has to be, we have 20 plus brands, it has to be in the right unique brand voice. We get 9 things right, one thing wrong, that has big impact on the equity of the brands, et cetera. So it's really a risk calibration and usefulness. Like I said, again, it's really a combination of business and technical judgment. Great,
thank you. So let's talk a little bit about business and technical. Paul, I'm going to start with you again. As kind of within the world of AI and all of, especially these customer-facing endeavors, how important is the partnership between IT and the business, and how has it changed, if at all?
So it has definitely changed, and so for our case, where we introduce our data platform, for example, we moved away from the old topic or the old pattern of having siloed setups or similar, but what we managed to get on the eye level and discuss approaches and project ideas or possible solutions together. So this was really important to have cross-functional teams, for example, not that everybody is just working on his topics, but transparent communication like this. This helped us a lot. To come together and change the style of working. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. Because this idea of, by the way, I mean, again, this is one of the things that I think separates Silicon Valley from maybe more legacy corporations is, when I was here being an entrepreneur, you never thought about who's technology, who's business, right? It's very, very integrated, right? In more kind of legacy companies, there's this wall between, technology, which is more kind of almost seems like a back office kind of thing versus a business. And so we've really, one of the big transformations that we've really been driving now, this is more native to online, but even beyond online with the whole corporation is to say, these types of lean cross-functional teams are really important that work where the product person and the data scientist is sitting with the brand marketer or the creative person to come up with, again, they're working on specific problems with shared OKRs, having daily stand-ups, all of this kind of stuff, which what it really allows also, the value that gets generated then is sometimes, the person who's not that technical or, a marketer may say, oh, I'm thinking about this problem, this is how I'm going to solve it. And, a data scientist may say, you know what, I have a way to solve it that can automate it or give you a better answer, or I can build a model, whatever it is. And so there is a learning that happens, or, our product folks or technical folks learn about the aspects of the brand that are so non-negotiable, right? Which, again, if you're not that integrated, it's very hard to learn that. Now, the key there is, you want to kind of move at the speed. You can't let this slow you down. So you have to create the mechanisms where you can move fast and you have the right processes to be able to do that. And so that's something that we feel really excited that we've been able to do over the past, especially over the past couple of years, with Zoom and remote working and all of those kinds of things, people don't all have to be in the same room. And, again, in certain, we were talking about this before the panel, that cultural shift has also helped kind of this, making that collaboration much more seamless.
Yeah, that's great. A hidden benefit of all of that remote work, I guess.
Yes.
All right, Paul, I would love to ask you some questions now, and I want to start with, how you and your team are leveraging data. You guys have done some amazing work with data. How are you using it? How are you using data on specific use cases? Can you tell us more about how you went about setting up the data foundation for those specific use cases?
So to first introduce Rewe Digital a little bit more, it's an internal service provider, IT service provider for the Rewe company. And Rewe is a food retailer in Germany with a lot of stores and thousands. Also providing food delivery service, pickup, convenience stores and similar. So, and if you think about what is happening there with customers going to our retail stores, customers ordering online, you want to know more about these customers and support them in buying the right things, maybe also shifting our customers maybe a bit also towards offers. So we want them to buy stuff, and we want them maybe also to find out great new recipes to cook something special, and getting started with more healthier nutrition and more healthier food like this. And how did we start? Well, we had the issue that the customer was, or customer data, so that everything that we knew was about the customer was distributed. So we knew we had customers using Facebook a lot. We had other social media functions. People were searching for recipes and things like that online, so that were a bit similar to our use case or our products. And what we missed was a single view on the customer. And the idea of our customer data platform was, that we also internally name Customer Cloud, is to join all these information and have a single view on a customer. So that we can find out, okay, person number A is using Facebook, looking at recipes, looking at special ads and maybe clicks, some campaigns we have. And if we know, for example, the person is not interested in beef, for example, why should we promote beef to him or her? So this is, for example, something that we can optimize. And I already mentioned, so we have multiple channels where we play out, for example, ads or collecting data or doing recommendations or similar things. Well, all this is also costing money. And in food retail, the margins are a bit lower than in maybe other goods. And so we have to take care, so where to spend money. And this is also a great way. So our goal was also not to know only more about the customer, but also to be more efficient. So, for example, the person I mentioned, which does not like to eat meat, for example, so we just can stop providing meat ads to him or her. So this is just spending less money. Or if we already know, well, we have a heavy user of our online app, is using a food delivery service a lot. So we don't need to provide any more ads or incentives towards the food delivery service, because we already know he's a great customer and a loyal customer. And we were still learning and experimenting what else can we do. But this was, for example, one of the very first use cases where we had a direct impact and where we really got more to know our customers. And there's maybe a lot of more to find out and experiment with.
That's great. I mean, and changing from, what you're describing is changing from product-led to customer-led and customer-centric. Any cultural challenges in making that transition?
As I mentioned, so this not to provide any more silos or supporting silos, always having some beer in the fridge like this, bringing teams together and also really bring them together in terms of not via a hangout meeting, but personally and discussing in person and doing everything to the core. This helped a lot. Also with a certain openness to, for example, not be shy of dumb questions. So there's no dumb questions. So sometimes you have some audience in your meeting and some questions are not asked. And sometimes it's a really good idea to just ask the question that goes to the core, or maybe that forces someone to explain something that gives a broader view on the topic. Could, for example, help to just bring everybody to the same level and then be on eye level on the topics, so on your solution that you want to provide, or even on the discussion itself.
Beer in the fridge is a big unlock.
Yes.
And same question, a similar question that I asked Gibu about privacy and compliance. How did you think about data privacy and compliance as you're setting up your customer data platform?
Yeah, this is a very big topic in Europe. So the GDPR, General Data Protection regulations are very strong, and we really need to take care about this. So from the beginning, it was a key factor to the solution that there's no other way than to obey to these regulations. It's not possible otherwise. And on the other hand, what are we doing with food retail? We're doing a mass market. So it's not that personalized, although I mentioned a person not liking meat, but it's not that personalized in other areas or business areas, but you can more easily segment people, and so we're working there on a completely different level. So we were not working on a one-to-one relation, so we're not mapping one specific person to some campaign or similar, but what we are doing segmentations, for example, and by this anonymize the information of the customer. So we don't target specific customers, for example, but use segmentation, for example, to feed campaigns or to feed target groups or similar. So this is one thing from the concept, but also technically we erased in our data flow these personal information completely. And
Got it.
this required a huge effort, also with the legal team and data protection personnel, to find out what is actual data that is to be protected. So what is really private data? So what do we have to kick out of our data set?
Yeah.
And what are we able to allow? So what is maybe general enough to not specific to a person or similar? And this required some effort. Together with our partner Deloitte, we had them a really great team supporting us there on the task of finding exactly this out, and also building the right processes and infrastructure to achieve this goal, to provide a GDPR-compliant platform for our customer cloud.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. You guys, thank you very much. Really appreciate you listening in. Thank you very much to our speakers. Really enjoyed having you. Thank you for all of the insights that you shared. And hope you all enjoy the rest of Next.
Thank you.